Imagine you've just walked through your front door. It's January, the year's 2001. You've just returned from a completely relaxing holiday in Spain where you were visiting your sister.
Sounds nice, honestly.
Right. So you drop your bags in the hallway, maybe you put the kettle on, sit down at your desk, and you wait for that familiar dial-up connection to let you into your email inbox.
Oh, the old dial-up sound.
Exactly, the screeching and the beeping. And waiting for you there, amid the regular clutter, is a message from a complete stranger.
And this isn't just, spam or a misdirected newsletter or something. It is a highly specific, deeply personal message that reads like it was written by someone who has been, literally looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, before we get into the actual contents of that digital bombshell, let's sort of orient ourselves. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the personal notes, the genealogical records, and the family correspondence that make up Connie's Chronicles.
Right. Our mission today is really to understand how a single document and a single email can rewrite a family's entire history in just one afternoon.
Because the person writing this email is asking Paul, who was our central figure here, a very, very pointed question. They basically want to know, has Paul ever looked at the 1939 register entry for his mother, Connie and George?
Which, on its face, that just sounds like standard networking. Genealogists email each other all the time to swap notes or confirm a distant cousin, that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally normal. But buried right in the middle of this stranger's message is a claim that just entirely shatters Paul's known reality.
Yeah, it really does.
The writer explicitly states that she believes the young boy listed in that specific 1939 household is actually her uncle.
And even more startling than that, she claims that one of the redacted entries, those thick blacked out lines on the official document, is in fact her mother.
Let's just unpack the sheer shock value of that for a second. I mean, it's getting a wrong number text, but instead of the person apologizing and saying, oh, my bad, the person on the other end calmly tells you that you've been living in the wrong house your whole life.
That is exactly what it feels like.
Right. You have the wrong parents, the wrong siblings, the wrong address.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
That analogy perfectly captures the sort of psychological vertigo of that moment. You have your reality. You have the defined, sort of impenetrable boundaries of who your family is.
Yep.
And this stranger is just casually redrawing those lines with a couple of sentences on a glowing screen.
Because Paul literally just got back from visiting his sister in Spain. I mean, his family dynamic is established. It's set in stone. So his immediate reaction is to just hit reply and tell this stranger as politely as possible that they are completely mistaken.
Right. They just have the wrong family.
Exactly.
And he retreats to the safety of family lore. It's a very human, deeply protective psychological response.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when our foundational understanding of our identity is challenged, our default setting is denial. We inherently trust our parents' narratives, the stories told around the dinner table, far more than we are ever going to trust some random stranger's email.
But wait, let me push back on that a little bit, because isn't it incredibly common for families from that era, like the 1930s and 40s, to hide things?
Oh, sure.
Illegitimate children, secret adoptions, estrangements. So why was Paul so rigidly attached to this one spotless version of the story? Couldn't he have entertained just a tiny bit of doubt?
Well, you'd think so, especially for someone who is already interested in genealogy. But you really have to consider the absolute totality of the silence in his life.
What do you mean by that?
As far as Paul knew, there were zero anomalies. Not a single slip of the tongue from an aunt, no mysterious photographs hidden in a drawer somewhere, no whispered rumors at a funeral.
Wow. So just nothing.
Nothing at all. Nobody, not his parents, not his known sister in Spain, had ever breathed a single word about another child. So for Paul, the idea simply did not fit into the architecture of the universe he had inhabited since birth.
So he just assumes the stranger is an amateur researcher who mixed up their Smiths.
Exactly.
Which, to be fair, is a really easy mistake to make when your family name is Smith.
Oh, definitely.
So he replies, expecting that to be the end of it. Case closed. But the stranger doesn't apologize and disappear into the ether. Instead, they reply again.
And this time, they escalate things dramatically.
They really do. They ask Paul, would you be willing to speak on the phone with my mother about her life?
That is a massive shift in the dynamic.
It really is, right? It moves the claim from the abstract into reality. Because an email is just text. You can delete it, you can file it away in some folder, you can rationalize it as a clerical error.
Yeah, just lines on a screen.
But a human voice, that requires actual real-time engagement.
And it forces Paul to confront the possibility that this isn't just some mix-up over census data. It's a living, breathing person who has her own memories.
Now, if you are listening to this deep dive right now, you might be shouting at your device like, why didn't Paul just suggest a DNA test?
Oh, right, of course.
But we have to remember our timeline here. This is January 2001. Commercial DNA kits like Ancestry or 23andMe, they just didn't exist for the general public yet.
Yeah, you couldn't just spit in a tube and wait 3 weeks for a definitive answer.
Exactly. The paper trail and human testimony was literally all he had.
Which makes the stakes of this phone call incredibly high. Paul agrees to it largely because he thinks he's doing this family a favor.
He thinks he's being the helpful guy.
Right. He assumes he can gently explain why their research has led them down a blind alley, letting down easy, and they can all just go back to their respective lives.
He goes into it thinking he's the teacher correcting a student's homework. But then he actually gets on the phone. He listens to the woman on the other end of the line.
And that changes everything.
It does. As they talk, his absolute certainty just begins to crack. The woman he is speaking to, who, spoiler alert for the rest of this deep dive, would later turn out to be his actual sister, starts sharing details that resonate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She describes people or places or timings that align just a little too perfectly with Paul's own family history.
The illusion of the simple misunderstanding completely shatters right here. What's fascinating from a psychological perspective is how human testimony forces us to reevaluate physical proof.
Yeah.
Because this conversation carries so much emotional weight, Paul can no longer hide behind his assumptions. He is forced to go back to the documents. He has to actually revisit the 1939 register.
And here's the part of the story that I find absolutely mind-blowing. Paul didn't have to go digging through some dusty archive to find this register. He already had it.
Yeah.
He had looked at this exact document much earlier in his genealogy research, and he had entirely ignored it.
He just glossed right over it.
How does that even happen?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you look at a document holding a massive life-altering family secret and just put it in the reviewed pile?
Well, it comes down to confirmation bias. When we do historical or genealogical research, we often only see what we're looking for.
That makes sense.
If you don't know you're looking for a secret sibling, a completely mundane historical record just looks like a mundane historical record. Paul looked at the 1939 register, saw his parents' names, thought, yep, there they are, and just moved on.
It's the decoder ring analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever looked at a piece of information a dozen times, completely blind to what it's actually telling you, until someone gives you the decoder ring?
That's exactly it.
Genealogy isn't just about collecting pieces of paper. It's about finding the right lens through which to read them. And this phone call was Paul's decoder ring.
Let's talk about the 1939 register itself for a minute, because understanding how this document works is really crucial to understanding Paul's realization.
Yeah, let's get into the details of that.
So the 1939 register isn't just a standard census. It was taken in September 1939, right at the outbreak of the Second World War. The government needed to issue national identity cards and organize rationing.
So the accuracy of this document was literally a matter of national security and daily survival. People weren't just casually estimating their ages like they sometimes did on earlier censuses.
No, not at all.
Because if your birthday was wrong, you might not get your ration book.
Precisely. The data is incredibly rigid. So Paul pulls this document back up on his screen. He navigates to the entry for the household at 4 Rope Walk in Bridlington.
Right.
And this time, he isn't just skimming. He is analyzing every single data point to see if this trap actually locks.
Let's slow this down and look at exactly what Paul is seeing, line by line. Let's really feel the heartbeat of this moment, because this is the climax of the investigation.
Okay, so we're looking at Schedule 241. There are 5 people listed in this household. Line 1, George Smith. He's listed as a general laborer, married. His birthday is recorded precisely as November 1st, 1909.
Match. I mean, that is his father's exact birthday.
Right. Then line 2, right beneath him, Constance May Smith. Her occupation is listed as unpaid domestic duties. She is married, and her birthday is September 25, 1913.
Another flawless match. And at this exact second, the denial has to be evaporating.
It has to be.
Because the statistical probability of another George and Constance Smith living together with those exact 2 birth dates in that specific town, I mean, it's practically zero. This proves the location, it proves the family unit. This is the correct family.
Which means the rest of the household must also be correct. So we move to line 3. Brian Ronald Smith, listed as single, under school age. His birthday is May 10th, 1937.
Wow. That is the boy the stranger in the email identified as her uncle. He is sitting right there in Connie and George's house.
Yep. And then we hit the redactions. Lines 4 and 5 are obscured. And the stranger had specifically mentioned these blacked out lines in that very first email, claiming one of them was her mother.
Okay, I really need you to explain the mechanics of these black lines. Because to a layperson like me, a blacked out line on a government document looks like a mistake, or maybe someone who died, or a clerical error that was just crossed out.
Sure, that's common assumption.
So why did this stranger know that a black line actually meant a living person?
It all comes down to privacy laws and what we call the 100-year rule. In the UK, census records and similar documents like the 1939 register are closed to the public for 100 years to protect the privacy of living individuals.
Ah, okay.
So if a person born less than 100 years ago is still alive, or if their death hasn't been officially linked to their record yet, their entry is physically redacted. It is blacked out.
Wow, that changes everything.
It changes the entire nature of the document. The redaction mechanism means that a black line is actually the bureaucratic footprint of a living human being. It's not a mistake. It is literally proof of life.
It's just wild when you think about it. Yesterday, before the email and the phone call, Paul looked at that blacked out line and saw bureaucratic red tape, just, government nonsense.
Right.
Today, he looks at that exact same line and sees a hidden sister. The ink didn't change. The paper didn't change. But his entire reality did.
The paradigm has completely shifted. The additional girl listed in that household hidden behind the redaction can no longer be dismissed as a clerical error or a different family with the same names.
No, she's real.
The dates for Connie and George are the anchor that secures the whole ship. By extension, they prove that the children listed alongside them belong in that house.
What had once seemed like a record of absolutely no importance is suddenly the most explosive piece of evidence in his family's entire history.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is the physical, undeniable proof that the voice on the phone was telling the truth.
It's a profound moment of cognitive dissonance just resolving into a new truth. The narrative he was fed his entire life was incomplete. The family tree didn't just have an extra leaf, it had a massive hidden branch that nobody had ever spoken about.
It's amazing how a single piece of paper can hold its breath for decades, just sitting in a vault somewhere, waiting for someone to finally read it the right way.
Waiting for the decoder ring. Yeah.
Exactly. That January in 2001, an email opened casually after a relaxing holiday permanently shifted Paul's genealogy project. It went from being a casual hobby, just charting names and dates, to pass the time into a deep, compelling, and intensely personal investigation.
It became a quest for the truth of his own identity and the identity of his mother, Connie. The 1939 register wasn't just a census form anymore. It was the major turning point in the story of Connie's Chronicles.
Yeah, it really was.
It proved that human testimony, no matter how surprising or shocking, can unlock the secrets hiding in plain sight within our historical records.
It makes you look at your own family lore a little differently, doesn't it? I mean, we all have a story about who we are. We have the boundaries of our family tree drawn in a permanent marker by the people who raised us. We just inherently trust the stories told around the dinner table.
But if your family history is built entirely on a foundation of spoken memories, how confident are you really? Think about the omissions, the secrets kept out of shame or necessity. How sure are you that there isn't a piece of paper sitting in a dusty archive right now, or a redacted line on a government form just waiting to tell you a completely different truth?